Jesse, what's up?
What's going on? How you doing, Ed?
I'm really good. I am super excited today.
Yes.
We have got probably the most amazing human being that I know. He has got the most amazing story. His name is Joel Greengrass.
Joel, what's going on, man?
How you guys doing today? Thanks
Good,
for having me.
Yeah.
Excellent. Joel,
Yeah.
the man, the myth, and the legend. The man. I interviewed with him years and years ago.
You interviewed him?
No, he interviewed me.
He interviewed you?
However,
Okay.
is the great part is that he's been privy to my color coding of my calendar.
Oh God, yeah.
Changed my life forever.
He's still using a paper calendar, if I recall.
Yes.
Yeah.
I readily admit to that.
I take paper notes.
Yes.
I have 5 colors of highlighters because of Ant.
Nice.
Yeah.
There is something about writing it down that helps me remember
I
stuff.
do remember. Joel, so welcome to the podcast, The Journey NYC. Part of what we do here is we like to talk to people about their journeys specifically. Generally, is we know that in everyone's life sometimes has little hiccups and speed bumps, and sometimes they're bigger than others. And what we hope is our listeners actually gain from this is actually listening and hearing sometimes the challenges that people have to go through, and then how they approach it and how it changes their life and their life becomes transformed. So I've known you for well over 15 plus years.
Yes.
Wow. Why don't we start with, who you are, first of all. What do you do?
What do I do? So currently, I think most importantly, husband to Carla and dad to Allie, Ethan, and Zoe.
Amazing.
And of course, Moose. I can't leave Moose out
Moose.
either.
Moose is the pup.
Moose, yeah.
Moose is cute.
He's my spirit animal.
Yeah.
And I'm also the CEO of a company called Theramu. We do CBD wellness products.
Oh, cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Neat. And that's a really big thing right now, right?
I mean, it's everywhere. It's
There it
almost
is.
impossible not to see it, and we can get into why that's both good and bad. But yeah, it is
Yeah,
everywhere.
But so on top of being a CEO, because when I knew you were a vice president of something, you've been a vice president of a lot of things, and then also like executives for a number of companies as well, right?
Yeah. So I mean, when you and I first met, I was the first basically chief people officer that Equinox Fitness ever had.
Yes.
And
what it was.
I've had that role now with Axiom Legal and Ideally and BuzzFeed and FanDuel. So yeah, I'm a people person.
Yes, you are. Speaking of, is through all of those different companies, Axiom and Ideally and all of that, I know a little bit about what you're going to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about what life was like in the years leading up to, from when I met you up until, this speed bump in your life.
Yeah, so I think, for the most part, from my perspective, and I've been very, very reflective, now, and actually I love the way you phrase that. And I think it's important that you look back sometimes and look at your journey and because it's not always important, just where you are, but how you got there.
Yep.
But I would largely describe my life before that as autopilot, because I don't
Really?
think I gave things a lot of thought. Like I was super, super professionally motivated.
Absolutely.
I mean, I still am a workaholic. Like the whole concept of work-life balance is such a misnomer in my world. And if my wife is watching or listening, she's like nodding very, very big right now. But I don't know that I was thinking more than 12 minutes in advance or 12 minutes in the past. And I didn't see it as a bad thing. Like I was happy. I was constantly moving into better jobs, and every couple of years adding a new kid to the mix, and I had a great marriage, and I was just I'll say surface happy, because I think as you go through different things in your life, sometimes you realize there's things below the surface that are important that you've been ignoring, and and maybe maybe the word isn't happy, maybe it's fulfilled.
Sure.
I
think that's interesting because like we talk a lot about society today and where society is, and because everything is so social media driven and visually driven as far as what other people see, but they don't really know what's underneath. And I think that's interesting that you bring that up, and it's that yes, I can be happy and yes, I'm fulfilled, but if you actually look a lot deeper, what's really going on.
Yeah, I think it also is looking at like what your criteria is, because career can be so big and all encompassing, or family, making sure that everybody's taken care of, or fitness, or whatever it might be, that it's I guess my perspective would be it really just depends on what your criteria is, what you value, and what you think is most important, which definitely changes over time.
Yeah.
You know.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened in your life at that point? You know, you had a very fulfilled life. You had 3 kids, I'm assuming by then.
Yes. Zoe was 1, I think.
The daredevil.
Yes.
That's the story that I remember. So Zoe was 1. What actually happened?
So I had a pretty taxing job at the time.
Sure.
It was a company that is open 365 days a year and between different time zones. There was basically only 3 hours per day where one of our locations wasn't open.
Okay.
I'd been there for 5 years. I was exhausted and run down, and I started noticing that my fatigue levels were like something I hadn't experienced before. And it progressed pretty quickly to, like, on weekends, I would wake up, I would eat breakfast, I would go back to sleep on the sofa, I would wake up, eat lunch, go back to sleep on the sofa.
Wow.
And again, this is like societally, like my first reaction was, oh, I probably got something from the kids because they're like little petri dishes, right?
Sure.
So I called my doctor and said, you know, I'm feeling under the weather. Can you write me a prescription? Give me a Z-Pak. Because antibiotics are the cure-all for everything, which is how I grew up.
Sure.
Right? And my doctor, to his credit, said, listen, you haven't been here for a checkup this year. Like, come on in, I'll take a look at you. And if you need a Z-Pak, we'll give you a Z-Pak. But at least this way we can do all your other blood work. And I was actually annoyed. You know, I was like, just give me the damn antibiotics, right? Like, I know how to self-medicate. So I go in and I have my visit. At the end of my doctor's visit, I remember I'm trying to put my pants on. And I can't get my foot into the legs of the pants. Like, I'm like rocking all over the place. And my doctor is watching this. And at that moment, he told me he knew what was going on. But he didn't tell me. He just, at that time, he's like, listen, he goes, just, you know, part of your general checkup, a couple things that didn't make sense. I just want you to go precautionary. Let's go see a neurologist.
Okay.
So he sends me to a neurologist. I don't know why I'm going to the neurologist.
Wait, so your feet were swollen?
No, I had no balance.
Oh, you had no balance.
I had such bad vertigo.
Okay, gotcha.
That anytime my center of gravity was misplaced.
So you were falling over trying to put the pants on.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I go to this neurologist.
Did you think anything was wrong there, or were you just kind of like?
I literally just thought I had a bug, like one of the kids' bugs. Like,
gotcha.
It was just, you know, it was late fall. It was the time that right, everybody starts being inside more, so you share more germs. And I was run down. Like, I knew I was run down. There's no way my immune system was firing all cylinders.
Right.
So I just thought I would knock whatever the bug was out of my system. I go to this neurologist, which was not one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, there was a complete absence of bedside manner, especially given what the eventual diagnosis was. But he had me go for MRIs. And then one day I'm driving home from work and it's raining out. We had just moved into our new house, like literally just moved into the new house. And while I'm driving, the doctor says, hey, you know, Joel, it's Dr. So-and-so. I got your test results back. You have MS.
Wait, and you're in the car driving?
Yeah.
No warning. Just
no warning.
Drop
no,
out.
Are you someplace that we can talk?
Yeah.
No, hey, why don't you come in tomorrow so we can review the results?
Right.
Just boom, blurted it out.
He's like, I got to get off to lunch, so I'm just going to leave.
It was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Like,
wow.
It was fairly late. And the only thing probably that saved me from driving off the side of the road was I didn't know what multiple sclerosis was. I had no idea. My first question for the doctor literally was, so I'm like one of Jerry's kids now?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, that's muscular dystrophy. You have multiple sclerosis.
Right.
And then said, you should come in and we can talk about it. So now I've got the rest of my drive to think about what the hell that might mean.
Get on your phone, start Googling.
Yeah, I mean, and this is 13 years ago, so it's not.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Not there yet.
What did I have? Like a flip phone, and there's no Google.
Yeah.
But the internet was still a dangerous place, right? But the first thing I remember, I walk in the front door of my house. My wife is sitting at the kitchen table, and I burst into tears. And I'm still not even sure like why, right? I just knew it must be something bad, right? I mean, Like that's kind of like. I'm lucky. I don't have one sclerosis. I have multiple sclerosis. Right? Like, in hindsight, like I'm not selfish. I would have just been fine with one.
Yeah.
And I told her, And she didn't ask if I was like one of Jerry's kids, but it was a similar reaction. She's like, what does that mean?
Right.
And then, unfortunately, the first thing that we did, because I wasn't going in to see the doctor anytime soon, it wasn't like I was going in that night, was we started on the internet.
Oh, God.
And it scared the living hell out of us. I mean, just scared the crap out of us. And it was everything from what it is, what's the prognosis, to how do you talk to your kids about it. And the blood just drained from my face.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
So that's been how many years ago?
13.
13 years ago. So you get this, you're in the car, you spend this evening on the internet finding what back then was like, you have no way of knowing is it true or not, and what was the first step that you took? I mean, aside from, to getting to where you are today, because I think initially you go through shock, you go through denial, you go through what the hell it's, anger and all of that stuff.
Well, I despised this doctor,
Sure.
Not because of this diagnosis, but I just I did not click with him.
Yeah.
So the first thing was, I need a second opinion, right? And one of the worst things that we do in this country is 2/3 of people will never go and get a second opinion because they're afraid of upsetting their doctor.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? That's bullshit. If you get nothing else from this podcast, you are the captain of your own wellness. You take control. So I'm lucky. I have a brother in the medical space.
Oh, cool.
I got the next day or the day after, I got a call while I was at my desk. And it was the chief radiologist from Cornell Medical Center. And he's like, hey, I'm friends with your brother, Jeff. I want you to come up here immediately. Bring your films with you. And we'll go through them. We'll get to the bottom of this, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the things with MS that's really scary is sometimes people go for years of misdiagnoses before they actually figure out what it is, because the symptoms are never the same in different people. It depends on which nerves are affected, how progressive the illness is. They sat down with me for literally 2 hours and went through slide by slide of my MRIs to show me, what the lesions were, what they meant, what is the actual, disease, what is the prognosis. And then at the time, the gentleman who had started the MS center at Cornell, he had a 6-month waiting list for patients.
Wow.
And this was a Friday, and they got me in at 9 a.m. on a Monday.
Wow.
So I went in, I had spinal tap, not one of my favorite experiences, but I still remember, my brother Jeff, the one who helped set this up, he was there with me, holding my hand and massaging my head during the spinal tap. And everything came back that I had MS. So the initial reaction was, as you might imagine, not a great one.
Sure.
I mean, we were trying to figure out, how do we tell the rest of the family? How do we tell the kids? What do we do? Am I going to be able to work? We just bought this new house. Do we have to sell the house? What do we do? So, I'd say well before I got angry, I was really depressed, really, really depressed.
Yeah.
Wow. So
meanwhile, you still have this high stress job. Did you take any time off, or were you just kind of right back to it?
I took no time off, and I had a pretty let's just say an unforgiving, unsympathetic, unempathetic boss at the time.
What's that like?
Who, by the way, had earlier, months earlier, said something is off
with you.
So knew it. But it just still to this day bothers me that any human being's reaction wouldn't be, what can we do to help?
Sure.
Because I've now been in that position, his position, multiple times.
Yeah.
And my first reaction is always, what can we do to help?
Right.
So it was not very supportive, let's say that.
Yeah.
So you get to that point, you take 0 time off. What is the first thing that you did for you, aside from the second opinion? And it sounds like what's great is that your family completely rallied around you. You had a great support network, and then some actual medical care that you actually felt more comfortable with.
Yeah, I got comfortable with the idea of, so I had to start taking intramuscular shots on a weekly basis. So intramuscular, for people who aren't, familiar, you're looking at an 1.25 inch needle,
Oof.
It's big. So, but
wow.
A nurse comes to your house, you practice on oranges. I was really good at it really quickly. My first reaction was, I would say, stubbornness. I actually went and I had dog tags made that said, don't tell me what I can't do. because everybody's first reaction was, oh, you're going to have to pull back on this. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be, and that really upset me a lot. So I was going to be defiant, right? Yeah. I was going to do dumb stuff I've never done before just to prove to everybody what I could do. And I think my daughter Allie still has the dog tags with her at college. Like she saved them. I realized later in life, obviously, that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to be able to do everything. Like it's that's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, knowing like what you can do and where you can push and where not. But I would say, really, the quintessential moment for us was a year in, and I would say that first year was messy. I left that job. Mm-hmm. I was smart enough to know that in that type of environment, so stress is the number one exacerbator of multiple sclerosis. Okay. That I was never going to get well there. There was one weird, I'll call it synchronicity type of moment that I used to not believe in those types of things, and I do a lot now. But I'm going to drop some names. I was going on a trip. I had a great friend who worked for one of the major airlines, and one of their sponsorships every year was Derek Jeter's charity golf tournament down in Tampa, where Derek and most of the ball players live. And it's a 3-day tournament, and it's ridiculously amazing. And this was scheduled like 2 weeks after my diagnosis. And I was like, there's no effing way that I'm missing that. So I had to have meclizine patches behind my ear.
For balance?
For balance, right? So people will generally wear those for like motion sickness. Mm-hmm. And I go to Newark Airport, and I walk into the airline lounge, and one of my other friends from that airline is there. And she literally looks at me, goes like this, looks behind my ear and goes, do you have MS? And I was like, what the, like blown away. And it turns out, I had known her for years. She has MS.
Oh, wow.
And we actually have the same doctor, right? Like crazy. So all of a sudden, I think that was the moment that I realized all of the weight wasn't on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's also that translated so much through the rest of, the last 13 years, because I realized that the scariest part about that initial diagnosis is not knowing everything and thinking that you're alone.
Yeah, you're alone.
So right. I spend a lot of time now working with newly diagnosed MS patients.
That's amazing.
Right? Because you can help people get over that hump. So that was game changing for me. And then someone I had met through that job, it was actually our outside counsel.
Oh, nice.
And I was talking to her about what's going on, and she's like, "Oh, please." She goes, "My mom has MS. I have MS." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, how is it that I've never heard of this disease before? And now people that I've known for years are telling me that they have it. So now I'm realizing, like, wait, this isn't a death sentence, right? There's I can be normal. But about a year in was really when things changed, because my wife basically just looked at me and said, listen, we've spent the last year figuring out how we were going to cope with this, feeling badly for ourselves, feeling sorry for ourselves, being mad. Now we're going to do something to help everybody who has it. So we put together what we now call Team Greengrass, which I realize, even though I always say Team Greengrass started, 13 years ago, the reality is like Team Greengrass has been around my whole life, right? And this is why, because we were going to go and join like the MS walk. Yep. And I didn't know if anybody was going to show up to like walk with us or what was going on. And so firstly, all of our family and friends showed up. One of my best friends made a logo, which, I have tattooed on my arm. My best friend got it tattooed on his arm also.
Nice.
Which is crazy.
Nice,
my best friend,
nice
Chris.
ink there too.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
And then my another, really good friend of mine designed another Team Greengrass logo that I have on my other arm. So nice. I think my wife is just hoping that no more of my friends come up with Team Greengrass logos, because I'm out of room. But so many people showed up at this walk. And the first one we did was like in a suburb of New Jersey. Like you were literally walking through like a housing development. And I'd never done a charity walk for anything in my life before. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you've never done a charity walk for anything in your life before, do them. It means so much to the people who are there and to their families. But the craziest part about it was we had, so my wife's in PR. She was at the time. So the local paper ran a story on, Team Greengrass and me, and that we were doing this walk. And my daughter, Allie, who was 8 at the time, and it's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Allie. She's 20. And
happy
believe
birthday.
it or not.
Happy birthday, Allie.
20. which is weird because I'm not getting older.
No.
Never.
So Allie really wanted to do something. So she wrote an email, and we worked on that with her, and we sent it out to everybody that we knew. And before we knew it, like Allie had raised $16,000.
Whoa.
And we were blown away. And it's funny because Allie's reaction the whole time was like, Dad, $16,000 doesn't even buy a nice car.
Yeah,
Like she was so
right.
unsatisfied with that, and the fact that we had to do more. But people that we didn't know read this article and started sending checks, and this is before like crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and things like that. And then at the walk, some of the people who read the story showed up just to meet. I think they showed up to meet Allie, actually, not me.
She's part of Team Greengrass.
And I mean, and I'm still friends with some of those people to this day, which
amazing.
is just amazing.
Really amazing.
So now, 13 years later, our family, we've raised over $300,000 in these walks. We've done the MS walks. There's mud runs. There's climb to the top of Rockefeller Plaza. There are bike races. Team Greengrass really, I'll say that was the moment it was formally born. But what I realized was all of this love and support has been there the whole time. I just took it for granted because it was my normal.
Yeah.
And what I tell people all the time now is, when things are good, like life is temporary. Everything in life is temporary. When things are good, like it's really, really important to stop and recognize what you have and appreciate it.
Is that what you mean by the autopilot?
Yeah, because we're just in this mode today where everybody's like moving so fast, and you watch kids today, they've got 9 different screens going at once, and they don't even like my son doesn't sit down and watch and enjoy a football game, right? He's got Red Zone playing over here, and he's got 2 devices tracking his fantasy teams over here, like it seems like work.
Yeah.
So we just don't slow down, and that's not what we're meant to do, right? It's not, this isn't caveman days where we're worrying about where our next meal is coming from because we have to go out hunting. Like it's just we're moving too fast. So the ability, I think, to slow down and recognize that, like, wow, like I've had this amazing support all along, and I've just really never stopped to appreciate it, to be thankful for it, and maybe even to reciprocate it. Because one of the things that I realized, and hopefully Antoni will disagree with this, but like I kind of think before my diagnosis I was a bit of a selfish dick. Like I really I feel like so much I made about me, and it was that first year that helped me realize that there's so much more out there, and I can be such a better person because of this. Like right now, this will sound like maybe the dumbest thing you've ever heard. There's almost nothing that I would give away my MS for. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, and listen, I don't want to end up in a wheelchair someday. Like MS, the uncertainty, you can wake up, blind tomorrow. Like there's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But it's made me a better person.
That's amazing. So when you started Team Greengrass, that was when things really started to change for you in terms of your outlook on life. What's life like now, or what happened after that?
I wondered, was it going to be one of those like short-term things? Like obviously, my friends and family are going to still love me all along, but you're like, wow, that was an unbelievable first walk. I wonder if we can do it again. And like we've had walks where, for the most part, Team Greengrass were the highest fundraisers every year. Where we go in Liberty State Park for the National MS Society. We've had teams of up to 200 people show up.
Wow.
Just for us at the walk. So we've built on it a lot, and like I said, we've branched into other events, and the mud run is one of the craziest fun things ever, and I take great pride in being someone who has MS and is participating in these events, not just somebody who is benefiting. Because the reality is, like, you guys see me sitting here today, and I've gone through ups and downs with the progression of the disease, but compared to a lot of other people, like I'm doing really, really, really well, right? Nobody should worry about me. I want to be able to give back to other people and help them. And that's been like a lot of the focus. And, we started with, what am I doing now? And I said, I'm the CEO of of Theramune, this CBD company. And that started because I found this amazing thing called CBD that changed my life. And I got really into nutrition, and I'm a wellness coach now, and plant-based nutrition. And like, how can we heal ourselves without like big pharma, which, big pharma and food and beverage companies, right? They kind of are our healthcare in our world right now, which is insane. And it was so effective for me that my mission became like, how do I use this to help educate and help other people? And that's really what the, especially the last 3 years has been like.
When did you discover CBD, and how did that help you?
So 3 years ago, literally 3 years ago to this month, I was coming home from the doctor. Every 6 months or so, I have to go and do a doctor's visit for my MS. And there's some annoying occupational therapy parts where you're putting like pegs in and out of holes and they're timing you. And I'm pretty sure I sucked at that stuff before I had MS. Like I'm a spaz. So I just, like, it's just so frustrating that they make me do this. But one of the things that they do is you have to walk from point A to point B. And I failed the walking test. And I couldn't get there fast enough walking. And I knew I was struggling. I get a lot of pain and cramping in my legs, especially my left leg. And they said, good news, there's a drug for that. I was already on 7 prescription drugs. I was taking 50 Advil per week, like literally 2 every 4 hours. Never questioned anything because my only job was to be the best parent and husband that I could be. When I got home, I was looking at my nightstand and it literally looked like the rear counter from like a CVS. Like there were so many little orange pill bottles and it was that Costco size thing of Advil, the keg. And that was when I decided there has to be a better way. So I went back to my good friend, the internet, but I started this time in the MS community and I started looking for all natural pain and inflammation relief. Mm-hmm. And this thing called CBD came up. I had never heard of it before. Did some research, and then going back to synchronicity, within 24 hours of me first seeing CBD, a friend, actually the one who designed this logo, called me and said, hey, he's got a digital branding agency in Texas. He's like, hey, I'm working with this family and they're trying to, they've got these products that they're trying to build with CBD in them, and I think it could help you. They send me this like 1 ounce jar of a sample of what now would be like the consumer strength Relieve. So sure. The weakest product that we have. And I put that on my calf. I put it on my foot. I only did it on the left side because I wanted to use my right side as my control group. I know, super scientific. But that morning, so I did that at night. The next day I was with my trainer, and he's stretching me after my session. And I'm lying on my back on the stretching table, left leg straight up in the air, so hamstring stretch. And he immediately says to me, like, what happened to your foot and your calf? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I literally assumed, well, I probably just bumped into the corner of the bed. Like I must have some bruise back there. Because again, I'm a spaz. That's not MS related. And he's like, normally I won't pull down on your foot in this stretch because your muscles are so rigid. I'm afraid I'm going to tear them. And today they're like completely malleable. And I'm like, well, I used this stuff last night, but I literally used a pea-sized amount on my foot and a pea-sized amount on my calf. Like it can't be that. And he's like, did you do anything else different? No. He's like, get up and walk. So I'm walking. He uses his phone to record me walking, pulls up the first gait analysis he did with me from a year ago. And from behind, it was watching 2 different people. It was crazy. And eventually, when given the opportunity to come in and work with Theramu and ultimately, help build and co-found the business and become the CEO, Carla, my wife, was the one who said, listen, if you can help other people the way that this has helped you, she goes, that might be your mission in life. And that has been my mission in life since, is to help other people. And again, I for people who are doubtful, think CBD is like snake oil. Like it's not. If you are using the right products, the right quality CBD, it is everything that you've heard and more. Now, we are all bio-individual. Like we're all individual people. So it reacts differently with everybody. So just because something works really, really well for me, for one thing, doesn't mean it's going to work for Antoni the exact same way. However, if I could work with folks on CBD and overall nutrition and wellness, like I knew I could start making a difference in people's lives, and that's what I've been doing, and it's amazing. It's amazingly rewarding.
That's what what I think is so fascinating about CBD is it does seem to be this. You said snake oil, and that's honestly the way that I think of it sometimes, because there's so many use cases for this new like wonder drug, right? Like if you have depression or you're inclined to have depression, CBD has been shown to alleviate a lot of those symptoms. If you have MS, CBD has been shown to alleviate some symptoms. If you have just inflammation in general or gut issues. Like the list goes on, and trouble sleeping and anxiety, and it's like
migraines, skin issues, back pain, neck pain.
It's
like
kind of a little bit
care.
like cures what ails you almost, but at the same time, like the stories are really compelling, and it seems to be there's a lot of anecdotal evidence there.
Cannabis has been used medicinally for tens of thousands of years. Every religion has it as part of the religion. And up until the early 40s, it was in this country as well. And, prohibition ended. We needed to vilify something. Marijuana got thrown under the bus, and they tied hemp to it because you had the most powerful people in our country at that time were the DuPonts, the Hearsts, the Rothschilds, the people who owned paper and lumber and cotton and fabric, the ones who are going to get hurt by, because it's not just the CBD in hemp, right? The whole plant can be used. But where CBD is super interesting is we've now grown accustomed to taking drugs that take the place of a bodily function. And what happens is we build up a tolerance to those drugs over time because our bodies are designed to be healthy, but they're also perfect machines in that if I'm taking a testosterone supplement, then guess what? My body doesn't need to produce as much testosterone. And over time, my body's going to stop producing testosterone. CBD doesn't work the same way. CBD is not replacing a bodily function. CBD works with our body to restore balance and help our body heal itself. And it can do different things for our skin, for our organs, for our immune system. In our brain, it will work with our dopamine receptors, our serotonin receptors, with anandamide production. I mean, it can do all these different things, and it's from a plant. I mean, it's plant-based wellness. So it really is. It's amazing.
Are you still on all those medications still, and the Advil and everything?
No, so I never started the 8th one. Great question. I never started the 8th one. I went from the other 7 down to 1.
Wow.
I have not had an over-the-counter painkiller of any kind in almost 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I feel better. So, I do education sessions all the time on CBD. I guest lecture at universities. I educate doctors and nurses. And make no mistake, CBD is an education-based health and wellness product. It is not a marketing fad. It's not something that should be showing up in burgers and ice cream and like what we're seeing now, like in your coffee. That's not the way it works. So I think the way that I do it, I'll have these sessions that sometimes go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because people come with notepads filled with questions. And I always say that I'm only here to educate you. This is going to be brand agnostic. And the only way I fail is if you came with a question and I didn't answer it for you. So I encourage people to be interactive. But 3 years ago, I couldn't do that because I couldn't have stood up in front of a room for more than 10 minutes. Like, there's no way.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's life-changing. And one of the things I always focus on is when you're dealing with someone who's got a chronic illness or chronic pain and you can help them, you're not just helping them, it's that whole support network. So CBD didn't just help Joel Greengrass, CBD helped Team Greengrass, right? Everybody's life is better because they don't have to worry quite so much about me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially your 3 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so moving into that discussion of how you're helping people currently, like, are you seeing that these effects are being replicated with other people? The people that are just taking CBD in general?
I am. So again, not all CBD products are created equal, and there's a lot of bad stuff on the market. I think one thing that people need to be aware of is whether it's marijuana or hemp, it's the cannabis sativa plant. They're sister plants. They're aggressive. They will pull anything out of the soil. That includes fertilizers, pesticides, heavy metals. So if you're taking the wrong stuff, if you're taking low quality stuff and you don't have lab reports, like you could actually make yourself sicker, right? So if you're working with someone with autism or anxiety, and now you're putting lead inside them, like our bodies, I just said that they're perfect machines and they're designed to heal themselves. One thing we're not good at is getting rid of heavy metals. Right. But I've seen it in others with MS. I mean, we probably have 100 different MS customers that we work with. But I've seen it. There's diseases that there literally is no Western medicine for. Nothing in Western medicine works at all. There's one called epidermolysis bullosa, where kids are born without the connective tissue and collagen to hold their skin together.
Wow.
I mean, it is just awful. And it's the most painful disease in the world. And the best that we can do is we wrap them in these $10,000 bandages each month, coated with, some sort of industrial petroleum, which I'm sure is the same as Vaseline. And our stuff works, right? Like, I'm not allowed to say this, but like, we can literally, when we've worked with infants with EB, and the minute a kid is born, because usually when they're giving birth, the skin is coming off.
Wow.
Like, we can change the trajectory of their illness. We can actually not only improve the quality of their life, we can extend their life. And then we can also go back to people who have some of the worst cases, where if I showed you pictures of their body parts, you would not recognize them as human body parts. And in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we can help heal their wounds. So, what we're seeing is, when you start dealing with like the orphan type diseases, more people than you know actually take notice. So we had been contacted by hospitals in Israel. West Virginia University did a study on EB and Theramu without telling us, because they didn't believe that everything could be true. I mean, we have EB families in 25 countries.
Wow.
And we're a tiny little family-owned business. We're certainly not. I barely have a marketing budget in the U.S., so we're clearly not doing international. But in the disease communities, people talk, and when you find something that works, they share it, and it's both great and it's a gift, but at the same time, like, even when I took the job, I never thought I'd be dealing with a job where I lose customers, right? Like, my customers die. Like, it's not like, and we had one that I remember in particular where we had a woman who had ALS, and it was helping a lot with her symptoms. And this was near and dear to my heart because I lost my grandmother to ALS. And we do a sales call every Monday morning with the team. And we just kind of focus on, why this is so important, why we need to help people out. And 10 minutes before that call, I get my phone rings, and it's California. And it's this woman's best friend letting me know that Patty has passed away. And I was devastated. And we had been working with her for over a year at this point, I think it was. But then at the same time, there was this moment of like beaming pride where I was like, and she died within 12 hours. It was like the night before. Can you ever imagine going through that type of loss, and the first thing you're going to do is call a company? And she just wanted to thank us and make sure that we knew how thankful her family was, that we were a part of her life, and how helpful it was. And then because I'm hyper-driven, I immediately went from like being sad and proud to being really, really angry, because I realized that there's thousands, if not millions, of people who could benefit and just don't know, right? They don't have that education to make that decision.
So that was 3 years ago, and it sounds like largely a lot of your symptoms have alleviated. What's life like today for you? Like, looking back over the past 13 years since you were first diagnosed, what would you say are the big things that have changed for you, and what life is like today compared to then?
I mean, the biggest thing to me is I don't want to say I'm a good person, but I'm certainly a better person than I was then. I'm much more aware of my surroundings and the people in those surroundings and the suffering that is going on, and people, and this is not now talking CBD, this is in general, the people who sometimes it's a conversation, sometimes it's learning from your experience, but the ability to reach out and help other people is, I think I've always been a giving person, but I think it's one thing just to like write a check to a charity, every time that comes around. It's another to give of your time and to be emotionally involved. And I think that, that to me is by far the biggest. And because I'm a better person, I think I'm a better husband. I think I'm a better parent. I watch my kids emulate, some of these behaviors now. And I mean, kids are rock stars, right? Can you imagine, like, my youngest was 1, my oldest was 8, just turned 8 when this happened. And, they've done everything from like giving me my injections to, they've been at every walk they do. I mean, they're amazing. Like, they're absolutely amazing. But I think it's helped them see the world in a different light. And I see, one of my kids went through a really traumatic event with one of his friends last night, and I watched the way he handled it. And I was like, wow, because I generally give most of the credit. Anything good that comes out of my kids, I always say, that's from Carla's side. But you could see like they've learned from this. So it's a really nice domino effect.
and it's really interesting because I've known him for so long. He was already an amazing person back then. Like, literally I can say this now. You were the reason why I was like, okay, I'm going to go work here. 'Cause I didn't like my second interview at all.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because we had I can't remember, like, we ended up chatting for like an hour.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like half an hour, and I was late for like, so anyway, and I remember just going, I really like that guy. It can't be a bad company.
Right.
Okay, I didn't like those people, but that's okay. I really like the first guy. And to hear you say that you've changed is such an amazing thing, because I think that just, opens up the possibility that, we hear it a lot where people say, this happened to me and it taught me to really focus outward versus just, woe is me, and inwardly to what's going on for myself. But you start really giving back to the community and seeing how that then affects your life, and how the little ripples that you create by actually changing the perception and the way that you perceive what's happening to you.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think, the other part of that is, I think I used to hold myself to this standard of where everything was either perfect or imperfect. And the reality is that's unfair, because nobody can live up to that, and you're going to set yourself and others up for constant disappointment. And I think what I've realized is, if I'm 1% better tomorrow than I was today, and then I'm 1% better on Saturday than I was on Friday, like change can happen really, really fast. But so it's all about being better, not perfect. And doing things in digestible chunks that you can deal with, and so I was very much like, you win or you lose, and now you win or you learn, right? So it's just changed my outlook and my perspective on everything. So it's weird to say, like MS might be the best thing that ever happened to my life outside of my wife and kids, right? Because I would not be the person I am today.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
You either win and learn.
Or you learn.
Win and learn.
I like that.
We've been using the wrong L word all this time.
Yeah,
right, exactly. If there's anything that for imagining there's a listener that might have just been diagnosed with an MS or any other condition that might be they're going through some life changes right now. Is there any advice or things that you would want to pass on to them, a message you'd like to give to them from your experience?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is that firstly, they've made more progress from a medicinal standpoint with MS than all other neurological diseases combined in the last decade. So there is hope on the medicinal front. But the other is that you're not alone, right? The MS community is a huge community. I think the biggest thing that people who are newly diagnosed need to worry about, and actually even people who have been diagnosed a while ago, is what's up here, right? And I think we're so strong mentally, but that can be used for good or that can be used for evil. And right now, like, the only pet peeve I think I have in my life is when people have a negative disposition towards everything. Because I got into an argument with my youngest daughter about this last night. I'm like, if all you think about is red cars and you walk into the city, all you're going to see is red cars, right? So if all you think about is negative stuff and bad stuff, like, it's going to find you, right? Because that's what you're going to notice, and you're going to miss all the wonderful things. So I think it's not everybody is as lucky as me and has like this Team Greengrass support network. And I've met lots of people who not only don't have that, I've met spouses who have, their spouse has divorced them because of the diagnosis, right? So you can feel very, very much alone, but it's not. There are great, great, great communities, whether, I can't stand social media, but this is one of the things that social media does really well, is it brings those types of people together, and there is that support. And, I say this all the time, like, I don't know the last time that I had a day where I didn't speak to at least one MS person who just wanted to understand about plant-based wellness and MS and CBD and MS. There's me and there's other people out there who would love to talk to you. But the first thing that you need is that positive attitude, because the negativity, like, I think that's the kiss of death.
Wise words, yeah.
Very, very wise. You know what? Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful just to hear this story, and to add already to the tapestry of what our relationship has been over the last 13 years. I didn't realize. I don't think I actually realized that it had been that long. Because I've known you for so long, and I've always known you to be upbeat, and I've always known you to be a doer and so people focused in general, that it makes so much more sense now when I listen to you and I listen to your story, how much you've grown and you've actually taken the time to allow yourself to grow. And I think that's one of the interesting things too, is I know for myself it's hard to sometimes pull yourself back and slow down, to take the time to understand that this is literally the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not it's not a race, it's not a sprint. It literally is. It's step by step, and one step in front of the other, and 1% better every day.
Right. So it's not over either.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's, I mean, I'm so grateful that you guys allowed me to tell my story, because even if just one person heard it and it helped them, then that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I hope that the next time we chat, that I've got more to share with you, because
we'd love to have you back.
I've learned more, and I've gotten better.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Joel.
My pleasure. Thank you guys.